Hey everyone, hopefully we are having a good week. G'day Instagram, and I think g'day Facebook. Yeah, just thought I'd hop online for Tuesday night chats. Hey Greg, hope you're doing well. Um, yeah, just trying to get everything set up here. Cameras and lighting's not the best this evening. Um, yeah, lots of things to talk about. And thanks for all the questions coming through on the hotline. For those of you that don't have the number that I put out last week, the number is in the Facebook Live comment section box in the title. So if you have any questions, you feel the need to want to ask any questions throughout the night, feel free to send a text message over to that number, and happy to answer that. I will be having questions come through on the phone, on this spare phone. And yeah, so without further ado, got a few things to talk about that I've seen out there in the news this week, and a few inconsistencies. I thought I might start it off by a video which a lot of people would think someone is ranting and going on, but I thought I would share that. Someone's just asking what the number is. This will be the first time and last time that I give the number tonight, so just make sure you write it down. The phone number is 0426 887 564. So 0426 887 564. If you have any questions, flick me a text message, and I will answer your questions this evening on this number. So let's get into this video that I was watching on Instagram. Most people would think that this is just some crazy guy ranting, and for the all intents and purposes, he possibly could be, but it's an interesting video. This is a video.
Please go to the registry and get yourself, acquire a live birth record, because that will bring you out of their jurisdiction into the land of the living, which the judge refused to take off me today. You're the ones that work with the corporations to tell people lies that tolls are somehow benefiting the government for infrastructure. Well, you know who benefits from tolls? The Salteri family are the only arseholes who make any money from the tolls. It's a private corporation owned by Tenix. Tenix, the Salteri family, a criminal mafia family. And these bastards are working for them, and the cops and the sheriffs and all the arseholes that work for this fictional fiat currency system. And it's going to come crashing down, that's for sure. Do you think you better tell the truth. Do you think that argument's going to get you off this afternoon? I'm not going to argue that. I've been divulging this on the internet on Mr. Astrotheology YouTube site for about 3 years. So I'm already going to destroy this corruption, because we are human beings, men and women. We are free. We are not subject to this Vatican death. This is death certificate. This is a bond, a security. We've been securitized and monetized, and you have too, and you're part of the fraud. And so is Channel 7 telling bullshit to the world. Do you think I'm going to get any of this on air? I don't think so. It'll be edited because you guys are liars.
I won't share the whole video, guys. But I thought it was interesting just to get a bit of conversation happening and look at things from different perspectives. So going back maybe 2 years ago, I first heard of someone talking about common law and the identity of humans versus the identity of a birth certificate, the identity of who we are and how we get enslaved in the world. And quite often I talk about, we all go to a 12-year indoctrination camp to become a servitude tax slave and get brainwashed by the system that we live in. That's just a little bit of a clip of someone that posted about a parking fine. People ask, people write in about those rights, not the rights, protests and whatnot that are going on. That's not something that I get into. I've got better things to do with my time, but it's important to understand that system that we belong in, that system that we are born into. Question, the system and the construct of where we are. As human beings, we've watched The Matrix. They show the Duracell battery. They say that we're just energy. As humans, we are a spiritual being having a human experience. So I believe that we've seen a lot of our rights taken away from us over the years, and we've been enslaved into this tax slave environment. The banking system is, a crock. I'll go through a lot of news this evening. If you can watch the rest of that video, there's lots of videos there. I'll make sure I don't show the screen of this camera because it's got people's texting me and whatnot. But the rest of it is in Birch feed. I put out lots of content on a daily basis at birchfeed.com. If you're not on there, just go and sign up. It's free. Yeah, but we're here as a part of the banking system, as a human being. If you think about, people migrating to a different country, whether people are coming into the country, people are leaving the country, where they are going to, which country they'll be arriving at. You've got to question yourself all the processing that occurs when they, process people when they go to another nation, right? How do they process, people? Why do they process them for? Why is there such a long time to bring someone into a country or to change over the country? Because they're basically trading those people's identities, their birth certificates, because you have an earning capacity as a human. As you earn money, you pay tax to a system. So, we've got to question where where people's vested interests really lay on this board. A lot of protests that I've seen this week that were floating around on Instagram and stuff like that. Those protests, one thing that I acknowledged and I saw were those police officers. Those police officers were walking around like RoboCops, and I've never seen police. Like, police normally have that high vis on. They look like a roadside police officer or whatever. Now you have riot squad that look like, a different type of police officer again. But there were police officers that were dressed very, very different. They look like RoboCop. I don't know if anyone saw that. Comment for those of you that are in Melbourne. Hopefully things are getting a little bit better for you down there. But it's interesting to just question the world that we're living in, and seeing what's happening around us. Getting straight into normal news and not too much of the weird stuff. This here is an article I posted the other day. It is from CNN. CNN article that the heading is "When Massive Central Bank Stimulus Isn't Enough." It goes on to read, a massive wave of stimulus unleashed by central banks around the world has helped push stock markets to record highs. Oh wow, they're acknowledging that now. But there must be at some point limits. On Tuesday, the US stock markets dropped sharply after prices reached the limit of what investors appeared to be able to stomach. Is it what the investors were buying, or is it what the central banks were manipulating the stock markets with? So it's a better question that you need to ask. US futures suggest a rebound on Wednesday, but a number of risks could continue to draw more attention from investors. Economies around the world remain weak. The said illness continues to rage. Analysts worry that the results of the US election may be contested. Kit Juckles, a strategist with Associate Granali. Question I ask is, who are all these people anyway? But goes on to read, told clients on Wednesday that the second week of September often sets the tone for the rest of the year. If that holds true, he warned, it's going to be grim. It does feel a bit as though markets got a bit drunk on easy money and we're waking up to a hangover. Geopolitics, politics, and policymakers' nervousness about the size of the debt load they have taken on. This is just the start of the amount of debt that they've taken on, and it's going to get a hell of a lot worse, guys, and it's going to be a hell of a ride. More pain to come. The big question is whether stocks, tech shares in particular, have more room to fall, according to Stephen Innes, global chief markets, blah, blah, blah. So basically goes on to talk about the levels of stimulus packages that have been printing, and that is not working anymore in the markets. A lot of people ask me as well, and have texted through to this number that I was sharing with you all about why don't I go, protest or whatever. To be honest, I've got better things to do with my time, right? And the way that I see the system that we're in, the bankers have a game, right? I'm not saying their game's good, I'm not saying their game's bad, but if you can understand what their game looks like, I once had someone tell me that they think about the shark that swims around, and it's the fish that go underneath. And I liken it to the fact that if the central banks is the big shark in the ocean. It's the ruler of the world. It's there controlling everything, and gobble up whatever's in its side, and be reckless from that front. You can either be fearful of the shark, you can be eaten by the shark, or you could be like the remora fish that swims underneath the shark. The benefit of that fish swimming underneath the shark, and it knows how it turns, it knows what it does, it knows not to get knocked out when it flaps its big tail or whatever. That fish consumes all the food that's dropping out of that shark. So if we've got the central bank, consuming whatever it does, which is quantitative easing, and then it's digesting all of stimulus packages through the system, and then bits and pieces come out the side. That is the game. If you understand how that beast operates, there's nothing wrong to swim underneath it. And that's my game in this whole thing, right? I look at how the central banks work. I look at how the monopoly board works. I try to take the time, energy, and effort to understand the game that I've been presented with, and try and work the best that I can with that. And I encourage others to do the same, because you're either going to be gobbled up by the big shark, you're going to be sitting in the corner scared from the big shark, or you can swim with the shark and have all the fruit and the benefit of that by understanding how that shark will rule the world. So going on to next discussions, one of the things that I realized is I went to a bank recently. Yes, go to the banks. I do go to get cash out. Some of my life, I need cash to do certain things. So I went to a bank, went to get cash, and I was talking to the staff there, the lovely staff, and they had just moved to a new location, and it was very nice. I'm surprised that they moved it to a new location, as probably half the banks within the area have closed down. One has moved into a shopping centre with a very nice fit out, and it's very, very nice looking bank. And just having a chat with the branch manager there, I was like, how are things going? And they're like, good. And they're like, it's a bit of getting used to being in the bank. And I don't go with my my mindset and talk to them at the bank. I just be happy and get along in life. And when I was sitting in the bank, she said, oh, it's a lot of getting used to in this new branch. And I was like, does it feel different than beforehand? You used to have these big screens that would come up, and if a robber came in, you're protected behind the screens and whatnot. And now you're just like standing out there like you're an Optus or Telstra sort of salesperson in a shop. And they said, no, look, the screens actually did nothing. It was just the plastic. They didn't have the pull-up screens beforehand. It's no different from there. And I was curious, so I asked a few more questions, and not with the the people, it's like, this feels like a cafe in here, right? And what I was thinking is, it doesn't feel like a bank anymore. When I was in the bank, like, where are the little benches where you can sign on and all that sort of stuff? This had little trees, it had little meeting rooms, it had some open desks like an Apple store, and it actually felt much more like an Apple store than what it would of a bank. And I asked, like, what's all this about? And they said it's because of the oldies. They're not that tech savvy, and they need to educate them on, when they come in, on how to use computers and how to use online banking. I'm thinking, shit, right? The banks are now turning into like an Apple store, where they're educating people on how to use their banking system, and to be more enslaved and more indoctrinated. And just a perception of something that I've seen out there. I was like, this is not the banking of the 90s. It's not the banking of 2000s. It's not the banking of that we've been used to, because we are heading into a cashless society. Someone sent me a link to Lotto. I don't gamble. I take enough gambling in life, right? Going out and saying fun things. But I think this came from Chris from memory. And it just goes here to say, to support the exciting game updates, the price of playing Saturday Lotto will increase for entries purchased into draw 4093 and beyond from 12:01 a.m. on Sunday the 4th of October. An increased rate commission will also apply for all entries purchased beyond this date. Entries into the new Saturday Lotto game are now open. So there we go. One thing this week's gone up is Lotto. There's more things that have gone up, and I encourage you guys to text through if you have got something that's gone up that you have noticed, and we can share it with the community of what things are going up in the economy out there at the moment. Um, actually, before filming this evening, I went and visited my mother, and she loves watching the news, and we're on very different, you know, thought processes and belief systems on the world that's out there. And my mum was watching the news, and there was an article that was out there, and it was I was thinking to myself, oh, it's going to be on in the last segment after sport, and that is when they always put the property section at the back, and they were talking about how the property market had fallen in a lot of areas and gone up in other areas, and it was interesting to see the perspective. Not that I trust anything that comes from the news, um, but yeah, I was watching it, and I was talking about a lot of the more inner city areas that had some price declines in Sydney, which could have been, I don't know, they're like 4%, 7%, stuff like that, all sensationalized stuff. But then it talks about those areas that are more out west and in the more mortgage sort of corridors, and the family areas where you've got the mums, the dads, the two kids, the white picket fence or no picket fence. They actually don't have any yards anymore. But looking at the um, the news, it was talking about these areas like Castle Hill, Kellyville, northwestern Sydney, all those sorts of areas have actually seen significant price increases in a quarter. I think it was like 4 to 6% increases within a quarter. I was like, that's interesting, right? And looking at this period of time, if people are experiencing some sort of difficult, it's always the top end of the market that falls, and the bottom end of the market. That's why I always talk about blue chip, blue collar sort of affordable housing, because you've got a demand for people. Imagine if we had no one could afford a Lambo, but people could afford a Toyota Camry. There'll be a lot of people wanting Toyota Camrys, and not many people being out there to afford the more expensive vehicle. Same thing is happening out there in the property market. The one thing I can tell you is that markets are very, very hot on a property front, losing deals left, right, and centre on a daily basis. Lost sort of 6 or 7 deals today alone, just from people out there paying more money for properties. I wish the market would fall. I wish the property prices would fall, but it's not that market. That market was sort of 24, 36 months ago when the market fell. Um, Wanted to touch on a new video that came out. One of my mates showed me a video from that Netflix. I don't like mentioning in algorithms sort of videos and whatnot. It was some social media sort of video, and I giggled because I was like, this is a propaganda outlet. Every time they put something onto that platform, it's always biased, socialist, fascist, sort of, brainwashing. Sort of, there's an agenda behind it. And when I was watching, as soon as I watched it, I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," and I was like waiting for the hook, right? And I was watching it, and then a couple of the things that I had realized is that it was basically saying that social media now is spruiking a lot of bad things. There's a lot of people out there talking about stuff that's deemed as um, sort of a theorist or whatever. AI is grabbing words that are coming out of my mouth, so that's why I'm trying to minimize the amount of profanity that would come out. However, looking at the agenda that was behind it, as soon as I watched it, I cringed. Like, it was like watching something from some Soviet Union in the 80s, or communist China, or somewhere that was really commie. There was just like drumming in propaganda about anti these things, where they give you the treatments, and anti free speech coming out, and talking about people that need to have a tinfoil hat on them, and really just trying to take away any sort of credibility from people out there. So it was just interesting to see, talking about illnesses, talking about one of the things that they were talking about is people, for some people that go down the rabbit hole a lot, pizza and hot dogs and whatnot, those sort of things. They're basically saying, oh, if you look at that, it's all, doomsayers and tinfoil hat people. like as if they're trying to cover up that there's information that's coming out from in the woodwork. So interesting to see that. I've seen a lot of people cancelling their subscriptions recently and posting it on Facebook and that due to some other sort of videos that were posted recently on those outlets. The way that I see this system we're at the moment, back in the early 1900s, we saw the Industrial Revolution, the mid 1900s Industrial Revolution, and things have changed. The old system's gone out, new systems are coming in, and we are at a verge where there's a new system coming into place, new ownership sort of system, as far as the way that we transact on a daily basis, the way that we interact with socially, the way that we are earning income and being fed food and information and whatnot. It's just a very interesting world that we're living in as the whole grounds of society is sort of changing. Go on to a news.com article. Keep your questions coming in, guys. This one here, as news.com article, thought it was really cool. It was out from today. It goes on to read the sickness, imminent reduction in job seeker payment will cost the economy boons and trigger 145,000 job losses, experts warn. So it goes on to see slashing welfare payments to workers who lost their jobs as a result of government mandated shutdowns is set to drain the economy of billions of dollars and cost an estimated 145,000 jobs. Remembering that all of our stats and figures from day one have been sort of manipulated out there, and the ability to see true numbers, right? We've got the biggest loss in the economy sort of ever that's been reported, but unemployment seems to be pretty high because they're not counting people that are on JobKeeper and JobSeeker and all those sorts of things, which are being paid from the government, which if you go back through, probably about 40%, 40% of Australian population at this point in time is earning and deriving their income in one way, shape or form from the government, right? If you were to translate that back through to real numbers, you're probably looking at sort of 20-25% unemployment. It goes on to read, respected analysts Deloitte Access Economics have crunched numbers on Morrison government's plans to cut welfare payments to the unemployed this month by $300 a fortnight. And what they've found is that the sharp reduction in spending that will follow, as 1 million families are forced to do more with less, will reduce spending so much that it will force thousands more of workers to be on the dole queue. Interesting to see this. Every dollar the government invests in job seeker is generating a significant economic return. Significant. There is nothing being generated apart from more debt, right? The only thing that they're generating in 2020 is not more production. It's not more, things being built or things being produced. All they're producing in 2020 is more debt. That is the all that they're doing. It goes on to read, providing people without paid work with enough to get by in a highly effective economic stimulus, as they have little choice but to spend straight away on essentials. People on higher incomes have the option of saving, which many are doing right now given the uncertainty in the pandemic. Very important to read that, right? People are saving at the moment. So although there is all this money, and or should I call it currency creation, which is occurring at this point in time, that currency is being created, and a lot of it is being stored as stored energy. It's not actually being used and put back out there into the economy. Just like electrical currency, currency needs to be moving around to be effective. And if it's not moving around, it goes stale. They need to pump more currency into the market until we get a point where it's like imagine a hose and there's a lot of water in it and something's blocking the pipe, and suddenly that bit of whatever it is shoots out of the pipe, and then suddenly you have all this water gushing out. There will be a point where velocity kicks in on the currency front, more velocity going around, so money flowing through the system. That's where we'll start seeing the increase of the hyperinflation. I want to give a bit of an example as to where we are right now in the economy and as to where we have come from to get here. in the economy, they've been stimulating for the last 30, 40 years. And people are like, you know, if this started 40 years ago, why haven't we seen anything happen to it? Why do you think this is going to happen right now? And it's the power of compounding of what's going on, the effect, right? If you look at the debt levels, the recession that we had to have in the early 1990s from the Honourable, what is his name, Paul Keating, he generated in the Labor Party, I think, about 92 or $98 billion worth of debt and bonds and different instruments that he'd created. And when the Liberal Party came in, their biggest agenda and their biggest win, I think everybody knows them for this, the Costello and Howard government, was to remove the debt and put us into a government surplus. But how did they do that, right? How did they get that? It took them about a decade to remove the 92 or 98 billion or whatever it was in deficit spending that Keating had done. Looking back, right, that took a decade to get rid of. It took sort of 5 years to get that amount of debt and a decade to remove that amount of debt the nation had got into. Here in a period of 6 months, we've printed 10 times that. We've almost got $1 trillion worth of stimulus packages that have been, money creation, currency creation that we've put out there in the marketplace to stimulate this economy. So just on that front, right, in 6 months we've created more than what they've done in 5 years in the early 1990s in a recession. So the way that I see it is that if you had a football field and a drop of water was to be dropped in the middle of the stadium, right? Let's imagine we have a big, white sheet in the middle of the football stadium. We're sitting up the top of the stadium. We're checking it out. You have to have binoculars, right? One drop, little drop hits the tarp and goes into the stadium. You wouldn't even notice it, right? 30 seconds later, another drop comes in, but it's double the size, like 2 drops hit. And every half an hour, that starts to double, right? So in the first minute, you have 1 drop and 2 drops. In the second minute, you have 4 drops and 8 drops. In the third minute, you have 16 drops and 32 drops. And it just compounds, right? You're going to need to have your binoculars on to watch that water enter into the stadium. There will become a point within about an hour where you can't even see the speck of the drop hitting the tarp and in the bottom of the stadium. But there will become a point when the drops start getting bigger, and the drops get bigger, right? Drops get bigger, where we start seeing the stadium getting full. Like imagine, you're dropping half the stadium into the stadium to fill it up in water. That is where we're at with currency creation. We are starting to pump so much, fake currency, fiat currency into that market, which is going to start having some big thuds. And these are the sort of shock waves that we will see. I did a 12-month mentoring program for those of you that haven't seen it or whatnot. It was a 12-month mentoring program prior to the GFD, the Global Financial Depression, where I talked about these things. And every week I was talking about when we did get into this depression that we are currently in, we would see quick recoveries and then it would fall off a cliff again. So we see a 10-year cycle, we might go into a recession, come out of it and start going back up again. We're going to see it go in a recession, out of recession, in a recession, and then these shock waves that are going to be happening are going to be more fierce, more severe, as our currency does die and have its final days. And here we are, we've printed all this currency, we're deploying currency to the masses, everybody's getting free money, people put their mortgages on hold, they're buying new furniture, buying a new TV, they've pulled money in their super, whatever the case may be. That day is starting to run out. All right? They did these movements to stave off a recession. Right? Now we are entering into a recession. What sort of stimulus packages are they going to throw out to the market to stop them from occurring? I was watching this video, someone had posted it somewhere. I clicked onto it and looked at a certain minute mark. I posted it into Birch feed earlier on today, and it was Trump talking about levels of stimulus packages of what he was going to do should he be re-elected. And when he was in there talking about it, he was mentioning how when he gets re-elected, he will be removing payroll tax completely, right? All these taxes that he's removing, they come at a significant cost, right? Who's printing this money? I can't really go into it and explain it on here because it'll probably get censored, but I have put videos up on it before. Starts with the FEMA, and they have a camp that they send people to. FEMA are the ones that are, I just said it, there we go. Are the people, is a institution, organization, or group, vested interest party, whatever you want to call it, secret sort of satanic force, which is actually printing and controlling that, right, in the US. I don't know who is doing it here in Australia, right? We've got the politicians that are signing off on documents and orders and whatnot at their beck and call, being, the central bank, hail the central bank, and they're just giving out free money. People are like, yeah, this is cool, but now they've got to start rewinding some of this and unwinding some of it. This is not going to be pretty, but it's not going to be that bad either, right? They're going to have to print even more, right? They're going to have to print more to keep. It's just like a drug addict that needs a bigger hit to get a newer high, right? And that's the way that our economy is based at the moment. And we're going to see big waves, right? But ultimately, just like that scenario I talked about in the football stadium, with those droplets of water every 30 seconds, there's a new drop hopping in of water, but every drop, every 30 seconds, it's getting double and expanding in size. At the start, you don't even see it. It's just a speck in the bottom. But as it gets bigger and bigger, you start seeing shock waves come through, and eventually everyone in the football stadium drowns because there's so much water. And that's what's going to happen with inflation. So go on and read the rest of this article. It goes on to say, people on higher incomes have the option of saving, which I talked about. This is why other measures such as income tax cuts would not be as effective as getting us out of this recession. So they're already saying that income tax cuts are not going to get us out of a recession, right? So they've changed JobKeeper as of this month. It's gone down from sort of $1,500 a fortnight down to $1,200 a fortnight. Trying to wind people off, but let's see what the ramifications of that will be. And I think it will be detrimental to the economy. I do believe that. And I think we will start to see them having to put new measures in place, which are going to be new stimulus packages in order to see us get out of this. And ultimately, they're going to say it was that said illness that they are mopping the floor with to say, oh, it was because of that, we have to do this now. Because of this, we have to do that. And we've seen it over the last 6 months. It's going to be really fun to see it roll out. Unless if you're in Melbourne, of course, which it goes on to say here about Melbourne. It goes, under the changes, the unemployed will have their payments cut by $300 a fortnight. They'll also have more flexibility to earn up to $300 a fortnight on top of the welfare payments if they can find work. But that is not an option for millions of workers in Melbourne. So this is going to be great. Thanks for everyone in Melbourne taking one for the team. They're going to have to keep stimulating and blaming, the situation in Melbourne. That all those guys down there will need to have this continued on, and it wasn't the right timing to cut it back. So we're going to have to keep winding it out. It just goes on to say. It's not an option for millions of workers in Melbourne who remain subject to some of the toughest restrictions in the world. Just before Christmas, the same workers face the prospect of JobSeeker being slashed down again to the original New Start rate of just $40 per day. The doubling of New Start at the start of the pandemic came as a huge relief after 26 years without a real increase to New Start. People without paid work were finally able to afford the basics. Social Service CEO. This is interesting. The Australian Council of Social Service CEO, right? The Australian Council of Social Service CEO said, isn't it the government? I didn't know there's a CEO of the government, right? Anyway, now they face a deeply uncertain future with the prospect of these devastating cuts to their already tight budgets. There are 12 people receiving JobSeeker for every job vacancy, and this is 28 people for every vacancy in regional areas. So literally, we have seen some industries which will never, ever, ever go back to where they were beforehand. Do you think airlines are going to go back to where they were beforehand? Seriously, look at it. I don't even understand why the stock prices are stuck at some very high levels, right? these businesses are insolvent. They are totally screwed, right? We haven't seen a stock market crash. Everybody wants the property market crash. All these stimulus packages that they're doing is just pushing up the prices of everything. It doesn't matter if it is, the stocks, doesn't matter if it's property, doesn't matter if it's secondhand cars, doesn't matter if whatever it is. I went to Macca's the other day. I rarely go to Macca's. Drink. A lot of people say I drink this water out of a bottle. This here is this is actually water that's fresh water, which I run through a Zazen, which is a Zazen. It's an alkaline dispenser. That's how I normally drink my water. But occasionally I will go to eat some, crappers and McDonald's. And I went the other day, and there was this burger that they had. It's like a little. They called it a junior burger back in the day when I was a kid. Now it's just called a hamburger. The hamburger was $1. It was a lost leader for Macca's. They don't display it that much, but it's just a little cheeseburger without the cheese. This thing was $1. It went up to $1.50 in around March this year. Now it went to $2 the other day, and I went past it. Sometimes if I'm needing to throw something in my mouth I haven't eaten all day, or whatever the case may be, I'll go get something like this, and the burger's gone up to $2, right? The ice cream cones, I didn't eat one, but they're 70 cents apparently, right? Soon they'll be $1. The cost of goods are going up. Doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. We're in a world where there's, everything's being inflated away. So in this cycle, savers will become losers. They are not getting a return on their money. And 0.5% return and 0.25% return from the bank, it's really nothing, right? And people that are too over leveraged could be wiped out. People that are under leveraged will be wiped out. People that don't have their cash flow in order, don't have their position in order, will be seeing a lot of pain during this time. So it's important to be on top of that. And I think it's, sometimes I say here, like, I'm so happy, so excited to be alive. The world is a messed up place, right? But yours doesn't need to be. You need to take, control of that. And, I've been faced with lots of bad things in my life. This time is not one of them. But I have been faced with financial issues. I've been faced with all different sorts of issues. And, being able to build strategies to, minimize that from occurring again, and being able to build, ways to get out of that position. So, if you are unemployed at the moment, if you feel that you've got a risk in your job, if you've been cut back some hours or whatever, you can be sitting at home watching whatever junk on TV, watching those masked singers. Like, why did they have a show, The Masked Singer, right? And then it was before this happened, right? Like, why are they like trying to socially, make it a normal thing to have a mask over our face? Who knows, right? But you could be watching these TV shows and junk, filling your head with crap, or you could be spending this time to catch up on the things that you've always said. I can't set up a business because I don't have the time. I don't have the time to, pick up a side gig. I don't have a time to focus on that study or doing whatever I need to do to get ahead. Right? This is a time. Try and build an online store. Try and, it all starts with one little thing, right? If you want to, I saw some people saying recently, I look a little bit fat compared to what I used to look. I'm still all right. I think it's some of the angles and stuff. But, I certainly have put on weight over the years. I remember people used to ask me, like, Nathan, are you on roids? Are you, you're doing on roids and whatnot? And, I never did. I used to go to the gym sort of 8 times, 10 times a week. I used to work out a fair bit. I haven't been to a gym for sort of 2 years now. I still do okay for not going to the gym. But if I wanted to go and be Arnold Schwarzenegger, I wouldn't just walk in the gym and be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I wouldn't go to the gym, do a set of weights, and then walk out as Arnold Schwarzenegger. I wouldn't go to the gym, eat, do the weights or whatever I've got to do, and then go home and eat McDonald's on the way home, right? Because that's not what it takes to be that person or have that body or do whatever. It all starts with having good habits. It all starts with, whether it be that one sit up, that one push up, that one dumbbell curl. And as people, right, we should all be looking at, does your job love you? Does your boss love you? Right? A lot of people have been awoken to that sad awakening. Some people have not even been awoken because they've been slapped in the face that hard, and they've got a mask on to cover up the belting that they've had, right? And they're wearing that mask, and they're still like, oh, the TV says this and whatnot, right? It's up to you to take control over your personal liberty and freedom, and that's sort of what it's always been about. Whether it be doing an online store, whether it be doing that hobby that you love that you can monetize, whatever it is, take advantage of this time and opportunity to do so, because there is a lot of industries where people think they may be going back to work, but they are never ever going back to work. And for thinking that we're going to have a massive economic crash, we're not going to see it this round. We're going to see this go through, and everyone's going to feel like this was just a walk in the park. And oh, do you remember when we, we're going into recession and things went a bit weird, and now everything's on a boom. We've got a property boom, we've got a stock market boom, we've got cryptocurrency boom, we've got all these booms that are occurring. What people won't realize is that they're becoming poorer and poorer with the ability of that capital, that cash flow that they're getting. What's important is having cash flow. That's why I drive around with a vehicle with an old plate cash flow, because cash flow in, cash flow out, minimizing the expenses going out and maximizing that cash flow coming in. If we see inflation, that cash flow will get inflated away. Your job income may not be increased, right? We're in a world today in 2020 where the cost of everything's going up. Meat is going up. I've got a lot of people that have sent me over sort of things that have gone up and been inflated recently, and I will get onto that shortly. But your wages haven't increased. Most people's wages have gone down. But what could you have done to stop your income from going down? What could you have done to push your income up prior to this occurring? What will you be doing over the course of the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, 48 months, 60 months, over the next 5 years to improve your cash position, your cash flow position, your capital position? These are the things you need to be looking at and asking yourself the questions, guys. Alkaline water, not straight vodka, right? I don't do vodka. Not only is it the right thing to do, it's one of our best things we can do to support jobs now and on the long, hard road to full recovery. We're calling the government to extend the existing sickness supplement to prevent income cuts in 2 weeks and move quickly to legislate permanent, adequate job seeker rate. That means people can cover the basics. Right? There we are. Right? The grim prediction follows warnings more than 400,000 Australians are set to join the dole queues as the government tightens the eligibility for the wage subsidies, forcing companies to make more staff redundant. Are we going to see JobKeeper, job seeker killing the economy? Are we going to see an economic crash very shortly? Questions coming through. I don't use that messenger thing, but somehow on this phone they come up on my computer. It's got the iMessage set up. But anyway, going on to the next article, because there is some very good articles here that I've got to read to you. One of them is the cash rate target, right? This here is, I posted in Birch feed earlier today. It is from the RBA website. It's the cash rate target. Goes on to read all of the cash rate adjustments over any interest rate increases, decreases over the last 30 years. So since 1990, it has all of the movements in there. I posted that because I've never seen anything that wasn't a quarter, a half, 3/4, or a full % rate cut or increase. Right? So over 3 decades, it's only moved in 25 basis point cuts, so in quarter. So either quarter, half, 3/4, full % rate cuts. But looking at this article came up on my phone earlier on today, and I thought it was too fun to not share with everyone in Birch feed. There's an article from investing.com, and it goes Australia.c.bank to maintain highly accommodative settings minutes. That's what the heading says. And I thought, I wonder what that means, right? So I just went in there to read the article, and it goes on to say, Sydney, September 15th, Reuters, what do you want to call it? Australia's central bank will maintain its highly accommodative settings, right? This is in sort of like, you know, Australia's central bank will maintain its highly accommodative settings as long as required and will continue to consider how further policy measures could support the economy's flagging economy. Minutes of its September meeting showed on Tuesday. At its September 1 policy meeting, the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, held its cash rate at a record low of 0.25% in a widely expected decision, having slashed rates in an emergency meeting in March to blunt the economic shock from the alleged sickness. Why did they cut the interest rates for 9 months prior, right? 9 months prior, we saw rate cuts. And then all of a sudden, we dropped it by 1 quarter, which was the last time they could pull it down. And it was because of this alleged illness, right? And then they said, which I posted the article around and shared it with you guys beforehand, that they would not be heading negative. They had no intention to go negative, right? This has now turned to say odds have since narrowed for a further cut, with interest rate futures O hashtag YIB almost fully pricing in a 15 basis point reduction to 0.1% at the RBA's October 6 policy meeting. Minutes did not indicate a policy action was imminent. Will we see a rate cut next month? We should have seen it. I had literally predicted for it to happen by the end of financial year, right? This was 3 years ago, right? Here we are. They can't drop the rates down at the moment, right? They can't. They will be dropping these interest rates to -2 to -3%. No financial advice for everybody that wants to go short my predictions or make sort of decisions based upon that. However, right, at a -2 to -3% interest rate, what's going to happen to the economy, right? It's the only way for us to gobble up this debt and be able to hold on to it and pay down our debt. And it's just going to be inflating that system into the biggest bubble we've ever seen. So when people say, oh, we're in a property bubble, we're not in a property bubble, we're in everything bubble, right? Everything's getting inflated here. Doesn't matter whether it's your food, whether it's your staff wages, doesn't matter what it is, right? Go on to this one's interesting. Another article from news.com. I don't know why. Always get the news.com articles. It goes on to say, Thailand's empty streets and resorts reveal a huge downturn in tourism. Well, of course they will, right? Who wants to go and move and holiday in, go through all the rigmarole to go to a third world country? After dark, thousands of tourists normally fill the seedy clubs and pleasure dens of Pattaya, Thailand's notorious red light district. But since the sickness, there has barely been a soul in sight. New photographs revealed bored girls waiting for customers outside nightclubs and streets in Pattaya due to the extraordinary downturn in tourism due to the said illness. They have changed this article because it did not say that when I read it beforehand. But this was what it was regarding. The dire situation has forced the Thai government to get creative about how to revive the country's battered tourism industry. About 800,000 people in Thailand have signed up to a scheme. They have signed up to a scheme, right? What sort of scheme? A Ponzi scheme, right? That's what people most of the time sign up. I played that video earlier on, not because I agreed to anything that guy had said in the video and the words that were coming out of his mouth. However, people sign up. Some people sign up to these things. Some people don't sign up to these things. But people have signed up to a scheme in which the government pays them to take domestic holidays. Why would they be trying to do that? Maybe it's data collection, right? Half the world doesn't even have an identity. Half the world doesn't have a bank account. Half the world doesn't have these things. So the best way to give it out is to get, a drug dealer doesn't take its own drugs, right? A drug dealer might go, here, have a drug, and then next week you're like, I need some more of that. Give me some more of that, right? Is this the stage of them, getting that data and getting everybody indoctrinated into this new system that we are faced with? So yeah, they've signed up to the scheme. Under the scheme, the Thai holiday makers are encouraged to book their holiday using a specific bank wallet app on their mobile phone to get free accommodation and airfares discounted by 40%, the ABC reports. They also get a daily spending allowance of around $25 on weekend days and $38 through the week, which they can spend as they please. This is Thailand, guys. This is Thailand, right? And this is an article which has been put out there on news.com, right? In Thailand, they are making people sign up to a digital wallet app, right? It sounds like cryptocurrency, sounds like a Bitcoin or any of those sort of things, but it's not, right? It's not. What is it? Is it the mark of the beast? I'm not here to answer that. I'm not here to be a part of any sort of thoughts or conspiracies. Um, but why, right? Why? Why is this occurring? How can it occur? How come people in Thailand are getting paid 38 bucks a day to enjoy themselves, right? It goes on to read that they were sex workers and the locals and whatever, getting paid $38 a day, right? To go and spend money. This sounds like a really big Ponzi scheme. I'm glad they called it a scheme. They should have put Ponzi scheme in the front of it because that's all that we live in. We live in a debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme, and that is our economy. It goes on to say the Thai government has dedicated 10.8 million baht or $473,000, which isn't much, to the scheme and is being welcomed by tourists and travel operators. Restaurant owner, can't pronounce his name, said her restaurant in the coastal town of Krabi in southern Thailand has already been filling up again. The campaign is very good for more customers to come to the restaurant. This is fake, right? They have paid. It's like you have a birthday party and you've got 100 fake friends turn up to the birthday party because you have no friends. It doesn't mean that you feel more special because you've got 100 fake friends that are here. They're just coming to take your beer and your food and get drunk, smash your house up, and piss off afterwards, right? This is a Ponzi scheme, guys. This is a Ponzi scheme. So interesting to see that that's what's happening out there in the world as well. So yeah, going on to a lot of questions that you guys have asked. I've got one of got some questions here. Got one from Todd. Got lots of different ones here. Ferrero Rocher, apparently, $20 for a box of chocolates. Back in 1930s, you could buy an ounce of gold for $20, right? That's what an ounce of gold was, and now gold's trading at about 2,700 an ounce. Here we go. This is a good one. There was an article, there was a snapshot from someone's Facebook, and it was from some car group by the looks of things. People saying what's going on in this group. All of a sudden, a 2014 and 2016 and earlier 200 SXs, I guess they are either 80k or more with high kilometers. People wanting crazy prices. Just because 300 is coming soon and 200 are coming in doesn't mean that the market has gone mad. People have gone to riot. Someone wrote here, tried to sell my 2018 something last year for 8 grand, no luck. I sold it yesterday for 10,250. Right, here we are looking at second-hand vehicles going up. I sometimes on some of my properties, instead of going to buy excavators to take down things, I talked about buying vehicles and running down trees and mulching up, land. I sometimes purchase vehicles in order to do that. And I used to pick up cars for like $200, $300 going back 5 years ago. To purchase a second-hand car now, I was fortunate enough to pick one up yesterday for $1,000, last night for $1,000. And it's a big thing with a big bull bar and whatnot. But these things are now selling for triple, quadruple what they used to sell only a matter of sort of 12, 24, 36 months ago. Question here from Todd. Hey mate, I've got a question for your next live feed. If we go into a cashless society or some form of digital dollar, where everything is tracked, how will all the drug dealers, criminals, and sex workers get paid? Will they use crypto? Who knows what they'll be using? Todd goes on to write, I also saw that as of 31st of August this year, CoinSpot, which is a cryptocurrency platform, have delisted Monero. Monero is a cryptocurrency which is untraceable, and you can't, you can transact on it, but there's no paper trail on it. Do you think Monero and other privacy coins that they're aware of these sorts of things? Yes, they are aware of it, right? Bitcoin, you can trace it, right? Bitcoin isn't the best thing if you want to be a drug dealer, a hitman, a prostitute, a stripper. It's not the best thing to have Bitcoin because you can trace it back and see links. And, if you really sat there and sent someone forensic onto it, you'd probably be able to find a bit of a location of where someone was from, or an identity of someone that's actually been trading on that. How will they trade in this industry? Who knows? They could use barter. They could use things that are off-chain sort of balance sheets. So, you know, you could buy. I just found this torch here, right? These are just some torches. I've given them to some of my staff, and they have to go to check out properties in not great areas and whatnot. Let's just say these torches, right? So it's a torch. But these torches, you could buy them for, I don't know, $20, right? Maybe a sex worker will sell you a torch for $200 and give you a free whatever. I don't know how that will pan out, right? But I'm sure that there will be a way in this new system. We are going to cashless, right? There's no doubt about this. We are going to cashless. We're going to see our currency disappear, right? We're not going to trade the way that we used to using cash. People don't use cash anymore. I've got jars of these coins that I have in my pockets. I, used to go and smoke and buy a pack of smokes, put the coins in there, go put my jeans in the washing machine, then wash, get all the coins, whatever. I don't know the last time they had coins. I don't even use money, or if I have to go use money, I'll use I'll use a tap card and whatnot. So it is being phased out, and what a great way of getting everyone indoctrinated in this new system. You need your little app that makes sure that you're not in an area that's going to put you at risk. It's for your own safety, and by the way, you're going to get paid for doing so. And everyone's like, yeah, we can do that, and suddenly they're indoctrinated into this new system. So yeah, got here message here. From Mel, thank you for the channel. I've actually looked forward to it each Tuesday. I'm learning heaps and pushing out making the brain work. So yeah, with it, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I appreciate that. Got another message here. I just got a box of Jack Daniel's stubbies over the other night. First box I purchased in quite some time, but it seemed pretty steep at $112, right? A box of Jack Daniel's $112, right? So these are just messages coming in from the community, and keep them coming. I appreciate you guys sharing. There is a message here from someone, 1997 prices from Woolworths. This is literally the first time I'm opening these messages, just so I can go through them with you guys. Yoplait for a 1 kilo tub is $1.99. 1997, $1.99. Wow. Devondale cheese, a kilo, $3.99. Difference back then is it actually tasted nicer too. It was a different type of food. Wow, look at that. Now I'm feeling old. It'll look a lot worse in the future, guys. It'll look a lot worse in the future. Someone wrote through, council rates are up. I haven't looked at council rates recently, but most likely they'll try and get us every time they can. Water rates are down, supermarket foods and meals are down, vitamins are down. Yeah, with it, I don't know whether the food's going down or whether the quality of it's going down in price as well. Got a few questions. So I've seen one there from Tim. There's a couple of you that are sending me property specific about your positions. I'll get myself and my team will be in contact tomorrow about that. So I will chase up on those messages that you've got. Cool. So this one was a CBA expects smaller property price falls of 6%, revising the forecast. So there's a article which I can't open on this phone. Jess also wrote, I've been watching your live videos the last few weeks. I've learned so much from you. Thanks a lot for the feedback. I appreciate that. Um, hey Nathan, it's Mahesh. Hope you're doing well, mate. Um, what are your takes on some of the experts, which are like Martin North, Harry Dent, who are very vocal on YouTube videos that property market is in a big bubble right now and it's going to bust soon? Very good question. I just noticed our friends on Instagram disconnected. So I'm going to go for maybe another 20 minutes or so for you guys. I'll just wait for the guys to get back onto Instagram. Um, but yeah, so what do I think of some of the so-called experts? First and foremost, do I think they're experts? No, I just think they're a person with an opinion. So just be very careful of where you're getting your knowledge, your information, your research from. Martin North and Harry Dent. Let's break them down to two separate categories. One is Harry Dent. This guy's been saying bad things for decades and decades. This guy shorts certain markets. This guy's got vested interests, whatnot. Harry Dent has never got anything right. This guy's been preaching fear for many, many years. So be very careful from who you're watching out there. Um, what do I think of experts like Martin North? I wouldn't class him as an expert. I'd class him as someone placed there to do a certain agenda. He collects data. Am I saying that guy's wrong? I actually like probably and agree with maybe half of what Martin North has to say. But on the other half, I think he's very, very wrong. And I don't know what his personal position is. I don't know what his personal investing background is. But they're very opinionated people. I see a lot of sad, old people that have been spruiking fear for many years, saying that the sky's going to fall in. But they always leave out some crucial bits of detail. Do I believe that there's a recession on our hands? Yes. Do I believe we are heading into a depression? Yes. Did I call this many times before? Yes, I called that would have a global financial depression back in 2016 to my mates, and I came out in 2017 talking about it openly, where I put all my credibility on the line to say that my business benefits from talking things up and going, oh, buy this, do this, whatever the case may be. But I was very open about what I saw, and I think that on the flip side of that, you do the right thing, good things come back. And I was very open as to that we're going in, be cautious on what you're buying, don't go out there and overextend yourself and whatnot. I said that there would be a point where we'd hit a bottom and we would see a lot of money printing and a lot of stimulus. I don't see any of these doomsayers ever talking about stimulus packages, right? They talk about, oh, it's not right, it shouldn't work like this, whatever the case may be. Technically, I believe that the property market probably is a bubble too, right? But is it going to pop? No, right? Because it's not the property market that's in a bubble. It's not your property. The property prices never even went up in the last decade. It's that the currency that you bought them with, the dollars that you use, lost all of its purchasing power, and you need more of them now to buy the same asset. So, is it a property bubble, a stock market bubble, a crypto bubble? It's a currency bubble, right? And they're just going to have to print their way through oblivion to starve this off, which will cause hyperinflation. So, what do I think of those fellas out there? I don't have an opinion on them too much. I just ignore them. I look at Martin North. I actually do respect half of his work and half the stuff that comes out of his mouth. I stopped watching him. I used to watch him more, but yeah, I don't agree with his views on the world, and I don't agree with his thoughts that it's all just everything's going to implode. And sometimes he's got some friends as well that he brings online, and some of them are very sad and very twisted, and to the borderline where I think some of them have maybe some mental issues as well. So that's my thoughts on them. Not saying either of them do have, but maybe some of their friends that they bring in as well. So. Hey Birchie isn't going to be a short live again tonight. I'm going to try and keep it shorter and concise, so not too much longer. G'day Nathan, long time follower here. Love Birch feed as well. Can you please explain briefly paying off today's debt with tomorrow's dollars? Does this mean that the debt you have now becomes less comparative with the time value of money? Cheers, Finn from New Zealand. Thanks for watching over in New Zealand, Finn. To answer your question, yes. So as they print more and more currency, I look at my properties from back in early 2000s, and I was picking them up, and they've got like $100,000 loan or $200,000 loan. I used to think I was going to go bankrupt because I had a $100,000 loan, right? Now I have $100,000 a month mortgage repayment, right? My interest bill's $100,000 a month. But I thought a mortgage of $100,000 was the craziest thing alive. And yeah, so, but if looking back, those properties, if a property was $200,000 in 2000 and now it's worth 800,000 in 2020, and you still have the loan of 200,000, it's very easy to pay off a $200,000 mortgage now because your assets have been pushed up in value and manipulated. So you are paying off today's debt with tomorrow's dollars because, you know, if someone's on 50,000 today and that $50,000 wage goes to $1 million income, that $1 million, you know, may seem like a lot of money, but when a cheeseburger meal is $300, when your rent has gone from $300 a week to $3,000 a week, that means that you could pay your mortgage off, which would normally take you 20, 30 years. You could pay it off in 12, 18, 24 months. And that is the exciting part with property, because not only will it get inflated, you know, from a capital perspective, it can get inflated from a cash flow perspective as well. It can also have detrimental times if it does go into a deflationary cycle. But we are now entering into an inflationary cycle due to the level of money printing that is occurring out in the marketplace. We entered into a deflationary cycle in and around late September 2000, about September 2016, we went into a deflationary cycle. That course changed in June 2019. Hi mate, just a question for the Facebook Live. For someone who is starting out in property investment, what fundamentals do you think young investors need to really nail before jumping in? Or what would you suggest people study? Cheers, mate. I don't know who that is that asked me that question, got no name, but thanks for sending the message in. Lots of things for new investors out there in the marketplace. Have a strategy, have a plan on how you're going to be able to get to where you want to be. Understand whether it be cryptocurrency, whether it be shares, whether it be property, whether it be growing food, whether it be a business, whatever it is that you are doing, make sure it's going to be getting you to where you want to be, right? You could go and grow 50 chickens in your house, right? Imagine you have 50 chickens. You'd be like, yeah, cool, I've got food sorted. I can slaughter the chicken, I can eat the chicken eggs, whatever. If you've got 50 chickens and they give you 1 egg a day, that's 50 eggs, right? I don't know what you're going to eat 50 eggs on, right? So make sure that it's in line with your strategy. If you're going to buy shares, is it going to be in line with your strategy? If you're going to be buying property, are those properties the right asset for you getting to where you want to be? I look at the asset that you're acquiring as being just a vehicle to get you to where you want to be from one side to another. For me, making sure that I had a plan at the start. It was like having, I called it goals at the early days, but I look at it more in the rear vision mirror and think of it more as like a business plan. Where did I want to go with my journey? Where was I at that time? What strengths did I have going for me, and what weaknesses did I have? What did I need to have in order for me to get forward and get over those weaknesses? So starting out, I had 40 years, 50 years worth of working life. And I had not much money saved up. I could work 2 jobs and get a high amount of income coming through. Like when I say a high amount, this is early 2000s, 40, 50 grand a year salary. I did 2 jobs, so I got 100 grand a year, early 2000s. And I thought to myself, I can earn income, but I need to get those deposits to buy more assets. So I realized from my own personal position at the time, I needed to get properties with the equity, so I could go back, pull that equity out, buy the next property, and make sure the cash flow was in check. So how do you know what vehicle you need to get to where you want to be? You need to work backwards from where it is that you need to get to, and sort of work out what vehicles you'd require throughout that journey to get you to where you want to be. Don't the other aspect of it, don't let the emotion get involved. A lot of people get emotional, go, oh, I've got to buy this house, it's a nice house, or I wouldn't live here, that's a crap property, whatever the case may be. Um, Numbers don't lie. If you understand the numbers, look at a property purely from a numbers perspective. I have zero emotion to any of my properties, even the properties that I've lived in, even the properties that I own that I think are cool. I have zero emotional attachment to them. It's all numbers and all fundamental sort of reasons to why I buy them. So make sure you know why you're buying the property, how it's going to help you get to where you want to be. Numbers don't lie. Spruikers can lie, your advisors can lie, your emotions can lie, your family member can lie, your colleague can lie, your spouse can lie, and that's not lying like as in like lying to cheat on you. They could be lying to you by their fear, their emotion, their doubt, their position. So make sure when you're educating yourself, you have full understanding of the potential upside risk, the potential upside potential, and the downside risk. Could this asset that you're buying drop in value? Right? There's lots of properties that I buy where people have paid sort of double or triple. There was someone else on the phone too that may be watching this, picking up a property from him yesterday. It was 75 grand. Previous markets I was selling for 500 grand. Someone at 500 grand, they were renting for like 1,500 bucks a week. That person didn't do their due diligence, and it's gone, oh yeah, I'm going to speculate on this, and now picking up for 75 grand. So, looking at the upside potential as well as the downside risk, and trying to remove all of that downside risk. If I'm picking up something for the price of a car, a property for the cost of a car, that's below replacement cost, below market value. If there's 5 other properties on the market for 200 grand and I'm picking it up for 150, I know that I'm picking up below market value, and I can use that equity to buy another one, or minimize the risk by having that as a buffer in case the market goes backwards. You can have that equity there, and be able to sell the asset and not lose your shirt. So yeah, lots of things to learn. I guess there's 20 odd years of info that's in my head from me going out there real world, purchasing assets and properties, and investing. But yeah, making sure that the property is doing the right task, right? Each property is different. Is it a cash flow property, an equity property, a growth property? What do you need on your journey to get to the next level? They're all things that you need to be asking yourself. What have we got here? This one's a big one. Birch, it's a mess down here in commie Melbourne. Piers Vic's been signed up to the Strong Cities Network, the UN-style militarized police deployed here, also being used in Hong Kong and elsewhere. It's very interesting, right? I don't have an opinion on, has Melbourne been sold out? There's people out there talking about, Melbourne, it's been sold. There's been agreements done to, sell it to China and all that sort of stuff. Maybe it has, right? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. If it has, how's it going to change your life, right? Researching all this stuff, what are you going to do about it, right? How is it going to benefit your life as well out there? So, a lot of people go down these rabbit holes. Just be careful of, what it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm just reading here. Another note, Kabir, Zinger team are looking after another refinance for me. Keep up the great work, Mark. Hopefully you're doing well, Mark. I want to check out your links because I can sit here reading them, and it wouldn't be fair on everyone on Facebook and Instagram Live. So I will read those links, have a look through them, and I'll share my thoughts on that to Birch Feed a little bit later. If you're not on Birch Feed, just go to birchfeed.com, click the link, enter in your details. You'll get emailed instructions on what to do next and how to join up to Birch Feed. It's free content out there. If you don't like it, you can delete it and turn the app off. If you like it, cool. It's growing by the week, and if you're liking what you see out there on Birch Feed, if you could share it with your friends and family, just give them the link, get them to join up and subscribe to it, and see if you can change their lives as well. I do it for free. I could just be sitting there watching stuff and thinking of it for myself, or I could be taking an extra sort of 1 minute after watching a video, after processing a document or an article that I've read, and be able to share it on and go, this is my thoughts, this is what I've watched, this is why I've liked it, and you could gain something from it to benefit your own personal life, add towards your own personal liberty and freedom. So I will read that, Mark, and shoot that over on Birch feed. Give my opinions on that shortly. But something is very weird is happening. It is not a sort of sickness as everyone is calling it. So next one is Scandemic has effed up international travel planes. Do you think this was a part of the plan of taking away our liberties and locking us down in the future? I don't know what it is. If you ask me personally, I think there may have been a sickness. People may be getting sick from that side of things. I think it's an opportunity to do these things with people and get them all excited to have those things done. I think that it's interesting that now on the Greens page the other day, actually, this is a bit off topic, but on the Greens the Facebook page, they were talking about this thing called CLARA, CLARA, Consolidated Land and Rail Association or something like that. What that is I looked into this back in sort of November when the fires were occurring. It's like a land parcel, which is a corridor, and it overlaps a potential rail network that could be installed. The Greens are now promoting on their Facebook page, like I shared it the other day in Birch Street, the Greens, the actual official Greens Facebook page is promoting a new rail network, right? If people, can't fly or whatever, and they want to travel interstate, it could be good for a smart city to occur along this rail corridor. And, it's just interesting. So I don't know what it really is. I think that it's a way of, controlling people. I think that if you want to go travel, you want to get into one of the big shopping centers, if you want to do business and can work in with society moving forward, you're going to need to have an app with a digital wallet with some digital dollars, which will work differently than the currency and the system we had beforehand, which will have your ID. If you notice, our driver's license has gone digital, everything's going digital. I think it'll all be packaged up into one place where they can track you, they can trace you, they can chip you, they can control who you are and where you're going in that system. And if you do go off from society, they will turn that switch off and deactivate you from that. So being prepared for that. Most people thought being a prepper in the past was having a bag with some army knives, there'd be a nuclear attack or something would go wrong, right? Being able to transact, being able to communicate, being able to have a community. You don't want to be borrowing off the toughest guy from the block. You want to be the toughest guy on the block, having access to, whether it be food, whether it be water, whether it be utilities, whether it be land, whether it be, ability to trade. Who knows what we'll be faced with in the future. The first step, I think, ultimately is, being able to have cash flow coming through, because the day that I was able to hand back the swipe card for my job and quit my job, I felt a great level of emancipation of being able to be freed from the enslavement of having to go to work on Monday and tying up a Windsor knot on a tie and cufflinks and tie clip, and they're all the cool things that people wore in corporate world back in the early 2000s anyway. But what will happen? What would your world look like if there's big corporations out there, big government, big sort of stock listed companies putting in their dialect, like, we're going to have to deal with the masks, we're going to have to deal with certain things until everyone can get this done to them. For those of you that are on Instagram the other way, and getting those things put in, and then you can come to work safely and everyone can be safe and whatnot. It's like, imagine being forced in your job, right, to have one of those things done, right? It wouldn't happen, right? Anyone wants to come work at B.Invested, we've still been hiring, right? We've been growing our workforce through this time exponentially. We're about to do another recruitment round very shortly as we grow and expand the team, and no one in my office will be needing to get a said one of these. And it's someone asked me the other day, what do I think of NDIS, which is a National Disabled Investment Scheme or something like that. and I made a little joke and laughed, and I said, it's probably a good investment. Not that I invest in it. I'm not pro that. I think there's a lot of scams out there around it, but I jokingly said it could be good when everyone gets these things done, right? There'll be a lot of people that are like, "Ugh," right, that aren't right. So yeah, so someone just asked on Instagram, will these videos get posted anywhere afterwards? Yes, if you're watching from Instagram and you're not on my Facebook, if you're on my Facebook and not on the Instagram of that, all of my videos get uploaded into YouTube. So youtube.com/Binvested. Check out the B.Invested page. They get uploaded every Wednesday after they get taken down from Facebook and put onto YouTube for everyone to be able to share. Hey Birchie, can you give us some tips on buying alternative hard assets like gold, platinum, copper, and commodities? Thanks again for the great content, Luke. Appreciate it, Luke. Thanks for the support, and thanks for watching, everybody. You take an hour, sometimes 2 hours out of your Tuesday night to listen to me. Sometimes you might be watching for an hour or two, or on the train, driving at a different time, whatever. And I appreciate that. So thanks. Where can you buy and what should you buy? I actually want to do a full video on sort of different sorts of assets. So I remember about 2 weeks ago, I spoke about some currency or money. It's actually money from the Roman Empire. These are coins and currency from back in sort of like 100 AD to 200 AD. These coins, I had them actually posted over so I could do a video series on. So I'm going to dedicate next week to talk about different sorts of gold, silver, Bitcoin, how to store it, whatever. I'll bring a few of those things together so you can see, and I can show you some examples. I was looking at these coins in the denarii, and Jesus was sold by Judas for 30 pieces of silver, which were these things. And then I was looking at them thinking, imagine whose hands these have passed through, right? These are like 1,500, 2,000 years old, right? These things are many, many years. These are millennium old, right? And it's like the stories that are attached to them. Who would have held them? Like, it was before some of our newest religions have even been created, right? That's how cool some of this money is. So I will bring some of that to the table next week, and I will do a special episode purely on gold, silver, platinum, explain the differences, explain the background, explain the uses for them. I think it could be cool for a lot of you out there. And that's not to say everyone should run out and buy precious metals or cryptocurrencies. I'll explain as to why I've accumulated, how I've accumulated, and how they play a part in my portfolio and in my life. Just remember, gold, silver, Bitcoin, they're good hedges against inflation. They do have ability to go up for lots of different reasons, but they don't bring in a cash flow. So yeah. Hey Nathan, Charlie here. When hyperinflation hits, would that mean that they will put up interest rates to try and slow it down? Yes. Looking at many different countries around the world, if with interest rates, when the currencies have gotten very shaky, they have increased interest rates. I think in Turkey the other year it was like 60% interest rates. When currencies are failing, interest rates go straight through the roof. I think it's back down. I haven't checked it for a while, like maybe 5-10% interest rates they are now. But by the time they increase the interest rates, our currency will be dead, right? Our currency will be dead before they increase interest rates. So it's not something I'm fearful of. There would be a day where I would pay out my debt and get rid of those worthless loans and get rid of my worthless cash and take it to the other side of whatever new sort of system that we are in. So yeah. One last one here. Hi Nathan, I'm looking at over 55s villages as an investment due to the high rental yield, but I'm a bit skeptical. What do you think about these types of investments? I've only ever bought over 55s when I've picked them up for $10, $20, $30, $40,000 for the property. So they're not, I don't believe and rate them as a good investment. You can actually get much greater returns for much more blue chip sort of properties. If you want to flick me a message. I don't know what your name is. But if you'd like to flick me a message with your name on it, I'll get my team to have a chat to you tomorrow. I'll get them to answer that and talk to you about that a little bit more offline and into detail. So with that, I will go through some of the questions on the screen here, just to scroll through. If any of you have a question, have a thought, would like to, it could be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you might be there to barbecue, someone having a debate with you, whatever, and you may have a question about something, feel free to flick a message over. I will give you a number. This is not my normal phone. It's a phone that I use sometimes. Sometimes it's flat battery. Sometimes I'll look at it. Sometimes I reply to people. It's just a sometimes phone. 0426 887 564. That's 0426 887 564. Flick a text over to it. Say, look, what do you think of this? Here's something I've seen. It looks much more expensive. That way we've got more of the community interaction. I want these conversations, these Tuesday night chats, to be about you guys and how you can benefit yourself and be able to take advantage of the current market, current opportunities, protect yourself, protect your families, and have personal liberty and freedom to be able to do things that you want, when you want, how you want, and not to be controlled, and not to be scared of being in a world like down in Melbourne at the moment, and hopefully things improve down there shortly for you guys. Just going to go and look at a few comments here. Tom and cheers for the chat this afternoon. Appreciate your time. Good chatting to you, Tommy, and look forward to helping you kick ass. Hey Nathan, James here from Adelaide. Hopefully you're doing well, James. Hey Kev, how you doing? Well, I hope you're doing well, mate. It's been a few hours since I've seen you. It's Kev from our office. If you've been speaking with Kev, he is on our Facebook. Wade, what is Robert Kiyosaki knows that he was told to stay in his lane. He got told to stop talking about sort of things that I've been talking about out there, Birch feed sort of stuff. You shouldn't be talking about it out there. I think a lot of it's more sort of rah-rah sort of branding sort of stuff, but I think he has been saying a few things that are a little bit weird out there. His Twitter, he's been attacked on Twitter a lot for sharing his piece. But yeah, I don't always agree with what Kiyosaki has to say, but fundamentally I agree very, very much so with the guy. So I was actually, someone's trying to organise a chat with myself and Kiyosaki, and myself and someone else that's going to be pretty cool as well. So I will be doing some more sort of podcast style chats, interactions with other people out there in the community. If you run a podcast yourself, would like to have me on there, feel free to reach out to my team, and I'll organise something for us to have a podcast and a chat about certain different topics. Sam, hope you're going well. One, have you seen the Plandemic documentary? Yes, I have seen that. If you think that certain people are good, if you think that your propaganda outlet is great, question that subscription that you go to, right? There was a pilot of what is occurring at the moment on a video that was released back in 2019, in around third quarter 2019, well before anyone started dying or any sort of sickness had occurred, and it basically talked about what it is today. And there is a propaganda outlet for these things from yours truly, Billy Boy Kill Gates. So yeah. Two, any concerns on big rent drops when JobKeeper payments decreased end of the year? No, I haven't seen any issues out there at all. Three, thoughts on renting properties by the room instead of the whole property. I have thought about it a lot over the years. I never did any of it because I thought about the tenants. If you were splitting a house up that rent for $300 and it's got 3 bedrooms, rent them for $200 each. If someone can't pay the extra $100 a week, and you're splitting into 3, what sort of riffraff could you get in there? The insurance, the liabilities, the maintenance, the management of those amounts of people. I've always put it into the basket over there. Not to say that it may not work. It's just not something that I've done myself. But I had looked into it very deeply, and I made the business sort of decision not to go down that road. Sinead, top tips for first home buyer in the current climate in Sydney. Don't get caught up in all the hype. Don't get caught up in all the negativity out there in the market. Make an educated decision. Have a plan if you go to an auction. They are getting very hot out there. The market is heating up in a lot of markets, especially in those first homeowner markets. So make sure you have a budget, you have a strategy, you have a plan in place in order to purchase that property. One thing I realized the other day is people always ask me, "Hey Nathan, should I buy a property? This is what my borrowing is. Should I buy it?" They want to go buy for the most amount of money that they can borrow. Um, I don't like that, right? Like a lot of people, when I help them build their portfolio, they're like, "Oh, shouldn't I buy a more expensive one?" It's like, no, because if you're going to buy one at the top of your borrowing capacity, then what can you do after that? You've exhausted all your borrowing capacity. You need to sort of buy for cash flow and equity and to build up, sort of steps to get there. So, yeah, make sure you've got a right plan in there. Wade, how are the fish going in the pond? They're going good. I see them every now and then. For those of you that don't know, I've got this dam. It's millions of litres, like millions. It's a massive dam. It's probably about half an acre of dam, maybe 3/4 of an acre of dam, and I filled it up with with some perch, some silver perch. I've got a couple of hundred in there now, a couple of hundred koi carp, a couple of dozen yabbies in there, some pregnant ones that are having babies and whatnot. So yeah, you don't always get to see them because there's so much space, and it's a bit like that analogy of my of the football field earlier. One drop in, another drop in, and it keeps expanding. But went to swap coins for notes at a major bank. Told they couldn't swap currencies unless I had a registered account. Wow, that's wow. It's your money, right? It's just a crazy world we're going into. High court question: is there a limit on finance from lenders if you can only have positive geared properties? Thanks in advance. Fergus, yes, there is caps there. However, you can sort of get over the caps if you structure your debt correctly. I think it's important to have a good, solid debt strategy to accumulate debt, and have a debt plan on how you're going to be able to maximize your position. Ultimately, if we're in a market and the market was to double tomorrow, it goes from, you could have $500,000 turn into $1 million, or you can have $5 million turn into $10 million. You want to have the largest asset position. The asset position could be made out of all different types of properties. It's important to get the property strategy as one aspect of it, but without having the the right finance strategy, you can't accumulate that portfolio. It's a bit like if you were, I see Nate said that I'm getting good at analogies. I'm going to give you a good analogy here right now. If you were to be stranded on an island, if you had $1 million in cash right now, you could go out and whoever would take your cash would take your cash. But if you had these dollar bills and you could go buy stuff with them today, cool. But if you were trapped on an island and no one to be there, what would you be able to do with $1 million worth of paper? You would be able to do nothing with it apart from set it on fire and be gone within 5 minutes. So looking at building a property portfolio, if you have property but without the right financing, you have the finance without the right property, they go hand in hand. You need one without the other. So you need, Diane, good to see you, Noggin. Thanks. Sparkles. Nathan, are you able to comment on Monero and why places such as CoinSpot has suspended trading? Jeff Berwick is saying accumulate. I don't go and jump into any crypto because someone says to or whatnot. Jeff Berwick is cool. I know Jeff personally. I like his beliefs. I like his theories. I love how he carries himself. I love his I don't give a attitude and says things as they are to help awaken people to the world that we've been sort of born into and lied to. As for purchasing Monero, I have a few of them. I only realised this evening that that it isn't on CoinSpot anymore. I haven't looked at it that closely, right? So it's interesting that they have removed that. It may be good, may not be good. I've seen coins getting deplatformed. It's certainly not a good thing to have them deplatformed because they do sort of fall in value when they get deplatformed. But I like Monero for what it consists of and the reason behind it. So those of you that don't know much about cryptocurrency, Monero is a privacy coin which you can trade and send to other people without having, like being tracked and traced. Hey Birchie, just a question with financing credit file. I was a dumbass and was late on my small 10 grand personal loan repayment many times, not because I didn't have the money or financial hardship, it was because I kept forgetting. I didn't want to think that it would affect my credit score being late, but I have since learned that it will be marked against my credit file. I'm consistently late. What can I do to try and fix this issue? Is there any way to get my credit file repaired, or a lender will give me a mortgage still, even with this issue, or am I effed up for years now? I only have just submitted an application to get a report on my file. I don't actually know what is on there yet. I'm just assuming. Thanks a lot for any help. If you guys need help obtaining finance, I have the best finance team out there. I've got a broker which I've been working with for over 15 years, done about 80% of my personal loans, and fortunate enough to have her leading up my whole finance team. I have a team of almost a dozen, finance staff, which are there to help investors build out strategies for their portfolio. So if you do need help, if you have a mortgage, we should be talking. If you haven't got a mortgage and you're wanting to get a mortgage, we should be talking. If you've got a mortgage and want to get rid of your mortgage, we should be talking. So feel free to reach out to my team, admin at binvested.com.au. I think my finance company's name is Zinger Finance, and I think the email for them is info@zingerfinance.com.au. But if you want to just reach out to my main team at admin at binvested.com.au, they'll be able to put you in contact with the finance strategist and make sure that you're with the right strategist, because different expertise and different sort of lending and portfolio positions with each of my finance strategists in there. So happy to help out where I can. Now, what is the general time frame in your mind to make the most of the property market we are looking at coming? Probably 2 years ago was the right time to be buying in there. A lot of people were scared back then, or they didn't even realize. Some people are very fearful now. Imagine if the market, right, just think about this, right, the market is still very good and actually booming in some areas, and we're in the middle of a recession, right? Imagine what will happen when more and more stimulus packages dump down in the market and push that market up. Imagine when we're not in a recession anymore and people aren't fearful. Imagine what's going to happen to the market. So, Steve, hey Nathan, you mentioned UBI several times. What will it mean for investors? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or is it just a thing? I think universal basic income, i.e. the UBI, UBI sounds like a sexually transmitted disease, and probably is just the central banks trying to give us one. However, it's Birchie up late on a Tuesday night, but I think it's just a thing, right? I think it's going to be, something very big for the market. I think that it will stimulate the economy very much so. I think it's going to get a lot of money out there and keep people dependent on the welfare system. It's going to make a big gap between the haves and the have-nots and sort of hollow out that middle class. But for those of you that are well prepared, the difference between if you're in the middle class, to push up or push down, right? And that's where I always try to be. Like, as I said beforehand, the shark that swims through the water, I want to be just under that, right? I want to know that I'm protected. I want to know that there's food constantly coming my way, and be able to swim with the big fellas. So doesn't mean that you have to be the shark, because someone in Japan will get you and cut your fins off and make you into soup. But being underneath that shark gives you the opportunity to navigate. So as for UBI, I think it's just a part of the system that we're heading into and the time that we're heading into. Be aware of it, understand it, make yourself familiar with it, sort of draw some modeling as to how having universal basic income will sort of head to. I'm just seeing someone here saying that Dan Andrews gave some news on a stage 3 lockdown. I don't know what it is, but it's on my phone I'm recording Instagram from. But understand and look at modelling as to, if we were to print more money and put more liquidity in the system, it would mean that there would be double the amount of currency floating around. What would that mean to your assets? What would that mean to your debt? How much suppression would that put onto your debt? So, yeah. I can see here Kev has shared, Kev from my head office here, my investor relations manager, has shared the Birch feed link. Thanks for that, Kev. promos now. um, my staff wages just went up. That's cool. Inflation. Oh, there he goes. Is it possible if banks will raise interest rates as they have been saying they will? They could, but if they raise interest rates, I don't see it being any beneficial to the market. If I actually had some of my loans come off fixed interest rates the other day, which were only fixed for like 2 years, which I fixed at very good rates, and now the variable rate is much higher than what they were fixed at. However, I went to go look at if I could fix them for 12 months, what would the rate be, and all that. I wouldn't be fixing them for more than 12 months personally, but I'm not saying to anyone to fix their rates. But I was looking at them thinking, these things are going to fall very shortly, right? They're below the variable rates, and the bank would be taking that bet because they are predicting that rates are going to be lower in 12 months' time. So you need to factor that into your equation. So I don't believe that we're going to see that. Lockie, question for you, Nathan. Is it worth touching properties in a flood-affected zone, suburbs around Ipswich? There seem to be some heavy discounts. However, I'm thinking they're discounted for a reason. I'll pick them up if they're the right price, but you don't want your tenants being on Channel 9 News, sitting on their roof with a boat coming to collect them. So just be careful with what you're buying, how badly affected it is, and how it's going to help you get to where you want to be. Here we go. It's a good question. Business question. What are signs that you need to expand your business? We're super flat out. I'm a classic car restoration. Instagram's got a little bit bad reception there. Car restoration business. We have jobs booked out for 12, 18 months. We struggle for space and for staff. I think I'm scared to take the next step and spend the money. Comes down to what are your goals, right? Look back at why you started the business. Are you scaling it for the right reasons? Sometimes I've looked at my businesses where it's been very big, very small, and all different places in between, and sometimes there's that sweet spot. Sometimes you can go too big, it becomes big of a headache. Sometimes it's too small and it's too much burden on you. I think it's important to have the right balance there of size. So is it in line? Is it going to bring you the profits you need? What sort of business plan do you have? How is expanding going to help you reach your goals? You could just be working harder and harder, not making any profit. You may be working harder and harder and not enjoying what you're doing. If you're doing car restoration, it sounds like it's an enjoyable business. Make sure that you have a plan and take that step. Importantly, like we could be going through a phase where everyone wants restored cars at the moment, but it may not be that in the future, right? How can you minimize that risk? If you're taking fixed costs and increasing them through the roof, what would happen if the business went back to where it was a little while ago? What is driving your business to be so busy, etc.? So you need to be fluid and you need to be mobile throughout markets. There's been times where I've expanded, times I've consolidated, times I've had to navigate through different sort of markets. So I guess overall make sure that you've got a good solid strategy as to where you want your business to be and have a good solid business plan on that front. I always talk about it from a property front. I give a lot of investment advice. So I don't give so much business advice out there. I don't talk about my businesses that much. I talk about what we do and all that sort of stuff. But there's probably a whole other sort of conversation on that as well. Cool. With it, Andrea heard the podcast on property investory. That's where I first found out about B.Invested. Awesome. I appreciate the feedback on that. And I did that podcast a little while ago. So happy to help out where I can and share the knowledge and the feedback and whatever I can to help you improve your position. So on that note, I don't want to keep everyone too late. Been on for about an hour and a half now. Just want to say once again, thanks a lot for tuning in, having me as a part of your family on a Tuesday night. If you do have any questions, feel free to text them throughout the week. 0426 887 564. We'll catch up soon. Have a great evening. Stay safe. Not like that. Stay safe in there. Keep hustling and keep kicking ass and smashing goals. So we'll catch up soon. If you need anything, reach out. We're here to help you. Stay safe. See you guys. Bye for now.